Hi, I'm Vaz. Welcome to my story. 23 times during my life I've lost 50 or more pounds. All it took was for me to realize that foods like this are what should fuel your life. G-bombs. We talk about G-bombs all the times. That stands for greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. On the table before me today, you see what Vaz normally includes as greens in his diet. At least 6 days, maybe every day of the week, I make a romaine lettuce salad, which I put other items in. And one of the greens I cook every week is collard greens. I eat these 2 or 3 times a week with other things I make, like whole wheat pasta, quinoa, brown rice, some of those things. Brussels sprouts, one of my greens. And over here I have broccoli and cauliflower. I eat them very frequently. This is just to show you what the G in G-bomb stands for. There's many other things like kale and other types of greens that you can eat. Whatever types of lettuces you like, or if you have to buy frozen greens, go for it. At least you get them into your diet. Of course, fresh vegetables are slightly more nutritious, and eating vegetables in their raw state may contain more nutrition than in their cooked state. But I enjoy eating cooked food, and other than raw salads, I often eat my vegetables cooked. Lightly steamed, yes, just to soften them up so they're more palatable for me. But that's getting the G and G-bombs into your diet, folks. That's greens. And we're going to move on to beans next, or legumes, and I'll show you a whole variety of those as well. So now that I've finished making snacks for the holidays, I came home and I had to finish making my baked beans. I want you to see that I use a couple of bay leaves in here. Supposedly it helps make the beans more digestible. What I did was I cooked these beans for 5 minutes this morning, let them soak in the water, and now they're at about this consistency. I don't know if you can see it, but I can press that between my fingers and it breaks up. So those are done now. I had them simmering for about a half an hour or so when I got back home. After they soaked in the original boil water all day long till it cooled off. It was cold when I got home. I rinsed them, drained them, rinsed them, and then I put some fresh water and I reboiled them for about 30 minutes with the bay leaves. Now I'm going to drain them out, and I'm going to show you guys how I make my sugar for my baked bean recipe now with raisins. Today I'm going to use some crushed pineapple that was left over from making the ham for the holiday. And I'll probably put some applesauce too. That'll be the sugary part of my baked beans. In addition to that, I'm going to chop up some onions and hot peppers and throw those in there too. Maybe some mushrooms too. That way I get the onions, mushrooms, and I get the beans from my G-bombs, which are greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. Well, now we move on to the B in G-bombs. The first B. That would be beans or legumes. What are legumes? There's many different ways to get legumes into your diet. In the front here I have lentils. I have green split peas. These I buy dry. You see, I use only a half a bag when I make these, and that makes me like 4 meals of lentil soup or split pea with carrot soup. I make black beans all the time from scratch. One of these bags right here equals 2 of these cans of black beans. When you're making black bean brownies, most recipes on the internet call for 1 can of these, so if I make from scratch a bag of black beans, I can make brownies and I can use them in a healthy dinner item as well. You have navy beans, small white beans, and great northern beans. They're all white versions of white beans. There's pinto beans over here. We have cannellini beans. We have chickpeas. Even peanuts are legumes. Green beans too. Now, what's important about getting the beans in our diet? Well, beans contain something important. It's IP5. It's inositol pentacaphosphate. That's a long one. What does it mean? Well, when you eat beans regularly, IP5 helps prevent tumors from forming in the body. And they're also rich in anti-cancer polyphenols. In fact, a recent study of over 30,000 individuals showed that those that ate beans even twice a week reduced the risk of colon cancer by over 50%. That's just twice a week. Vaz eats beans 7 days a week. Another important thing about beans is they contain resistant starch. That means that half or more of the calories that are in the beans as you consume them, your body cannot absorb those calories, so they just pass through and keep your digestive system working properly, and they pass through your body, and you're actually consuming half as many calories as you might think you are, because the calories in beans are half non-absorbable. They also stabilize your blood sugar, so another great thing about legumes. 3 good points about legumes. The important part is every day you want to include greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds in your diet. Okay, well, I'm draining those beans in the sink. I have about a cup of raisins here I soaked in some water. I'm going to chop those up in the food processor right now. Let's do that first. Just a couple of pulses. They chop up much better if you soak them in water first. This becomes part of the sugar of my baked beans, which used to be my molasses and brown sugar. I no longer use those ingredients in my food, so now I replace it with this. Okay, those are fairly chopped up. They don't have to be completely mauled up. I also have a can of crushed pineapple. I used the juice when I made ham for Easter today, and I saved the pineapple pulp. I'm going to mix that with this. This will replace all the molasses and brown sugar that I would have normally used in my baked beans. Then I just pulse this up. Sometimes I use bananas too, but today I had pineapple, so I'm going to use that. And that's it. Now this will go in here in the bowl. That'll become very sweet. And a little more, I'm going to add probably about 3/4 of a cup of my homemade applesauce, unsweetened of course. And that's it for the sugar part of my baked beans. Next, I'm going to throw in the food processor 4 medium-sized baby Bella mushrooms. They're babies, but they're fairly good-sized ones. 1 habanero pepper. 1 serrano pepper. These provide some heat for the sweet. I also put this 1 white onion. Now I pulse these up in the same food processor. Okay. We just mix this straight in with the sweet. It's quite a bit of bulk, about 2 cups worth of vegetables to go with about 2.5 cups worth of fruit. And then on the top of that, I'm putting 1 12-ounce can of tomato paste. This is the tomato paste I got from the dented can shelf. All tomato paste I find is fairly low in sodium. This has 200 milligrams for 12 ounces, which is pretty good. Tomatoes have over 10,000 phytochemicals and micronutrients in them, so I add them to many dishes. Whenever I make my salads, I put them in there too. Okay, now I just mix this up. This will become the base of my baked beans. The redness gives it pretty much a similar color to when I used to use molasses too. And I used to use tomato sauce, but it doesn't have to cook quite as long if I just go with the straight tomato paste. So that's what I've changed to. I can smell the sweetness from the pineapple, so these are probably going to be a fairly sweet mix. And the raisin gives it a nice flavor too, and a little bit of applesauce for some more sweetness. Applesauce also acts as a thickening agent when you cook something. And I showed you I used bay leaves when I was baking the beans. Well, the pineapple also has digestive enzymes that help you to digest. So now you can see the consistency and the color of the mix that's going to go over the beans. I just pull the bay leaves out of the beans. You don't want to eat those. They're indigestible. The beans are drained. I just pour these right in. This is a 16-ounce bag of dried navy beans is what I use in this recipe. This is an old dish. I don't know where it came from. It says GE on the cover of it, but I don't really know where it came from. I got it in a box of stuff left over from my great-grandmother that no one wanted. And I make baked beans probably once a month on average. So I thought it would work out good, and so far it has. I just mix these in. You've seen me make baked beans before, but I wanted you to see that now that I don't use sugar, I still make baked beans. Now that I don't use molasses, I still enjoy baked beans. It's a way for me to get beans into my diet. This is probably 5 to 6 meals of beans that I'm cooking in this pot. And they're going to cook about the same as they used to with the brown sugar and molasses, but maybe a little bit less. It depends how wet your mix turns out. Today I did use quite a bit of fruit in this, so it might take closer to 3.5 hours. But you see, I do get to use pretty much all of it. Just like when I made the baked beans before, you want the liquid part to cover the beans, and then you're pretty much just dehydrating it down until it's the consistency you like. Some people like wetter beans. I prefer slightly drier beans. And when I have these in the refrigerator, and this is part of my nightly meal or even a lunch, I very often make collard greens that same week, and that way I get the greens of my G-bombs. These are already providing me with the beans, the onions, and the mushrooms from my G-bombs. So I'll probably make some kind of a seedy berry dessert to go with my greens and these beans. So you see that worked out pretty good. It just about fills this perfectly. I'll put it on a baking sheet in case it spills over in the oven. And then again, this will bake at 350 in my oven for 3 to 3.5 hours until I get the desired consistency. And that's it. Then I got a cover that goes on top and I keep it in the refrigerator. It makes it nice and airtight, and it makes 5-6 meals for me. So that's it. I wanted to show you that you can eat what you want on the holiday, because then right away, back on the G-Bombs bandwagon, back on the healthy eating lifestyle. The G-Bombs, greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. These we want to include on a daily basis, but that's not all we eat, as we often discuss. And it shows you here I also have peppers, tomatoes, fruits, all kinds of still healthy ingredients, not on the G-Bombs list, but they're also very important. G-Bombs are greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. Here we have the onions and the mushroom portion of G-Bombs. And I just wanted to show you that even though onions and mushrooms are pretty much self-explanatory, I happen to have 3 types of onions in my house at the present times. These are the super sweet Vidia onions. Over here I have just a plain old yellow onion. And at some point off of my day-old shelf I got a whole bunch of these white little onions. And I use all of these mostly in salad. These I usually cook into something. I just showed you this because my sister even had a question, do you refrigerate mushrooms? I do, and they last me all month long. This month they had a 3 for $5 sale on these Baby Bellas. I buy now the sliced up ones because I think I get twice as many mushrooms for my money. They last me all month if I keep them in the refrigerator. Yesterday I opened one of those containers and used a little bit in a recipe. Then I just Ziploc the rest of them and they go in the refrigerator. I'm going to read some facts to you from Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Fuhrman. And this is just my rewriting of some of these facts, but I want you to know these important things. Why do you include onions and mushrooms in your diet? Well, for onions, a multi-country European study tracked the consumption of foods and cancer. I've often mentioned this. Onions were the most important factor, even more so than tomatoes. And just eating onions in your diet created between a 50 and 80% reduction in all cancers. That's all cancers, 50 to 80% reduction just from including these in your diet on a regular basis. Okay, then we have mushrooms. Why is it important to eat mushrooms? Well, mushrooms have 3 important factors that makes us need to consume them to build super immunity within our bodies. And these items right here, onions and mushrooms, are great cancer fighters, prevention of diabetes, eliminate heart disease. G-Bombs help do all those things, but these are some of the most important things on the G-Bombs list. What mushrooms have is they have antigen-binding lectins. What they do is antigen-binding lectins bind to abnormal cells in the body and inhibit new blood cell growth, blood vessel growth. Abnormal cells are fat cells, cancer cells, any other cells. They also have angiogenesis inhibitors in them. Angiogenesis inhibitors restrict the growth of abnormal cells and fat cells, and they starve off tumors in the body. So that's very important. Even if you already have cancer, if you can consume onions and mushrooms on a regular basis, you can reduce the production of the tumor itself and reduce the reproduction of those cancer cells, slow it to a rate where it's not going to become a life-threatening illness as quickly. They also have aromatase inhibitors. Any woman who's had breast cancer and had to deal with that, they understand. They even take drugs later on. My own sister is a very strong woman and she survived the cancer procedures and chemotherapy and radiation. And once that was all over, they asked her to take some drugs, which are aromatase inhibitors. So are mushrooms. Okay, aromatase inhibitors, what that does is that stops the production of extra estrogen, protecting breast tissue from being stimulated by that extra estrogen. And when it's stimulated, it may create more cancer cells from whatever might be left that they missed. Eat these on a regular basis and that will be less active. That's the reasons why we need to consume onions and mushrooms in our daily diet.
How you doing? I'm back.
I preach the message of healthy eating, and I appreciate you putting this nice park here so we can enjoy some healthy exercise, hiking, running. The kids have a playground to play in, people go fishing here, and that's all thanks to you and your people. And I know you gave this to us about 250 years ago, but we've been enjoying it ever since. If it wasn't for you and the Mohegan people, it never would have happened. So thanks a lot. And as always, Vaz is preaching the message of healthy eating, and more importantly, G-BOMBs, an acronym created by Dr. Joel Furman to represent greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. We need to get those 6 things in our diet every day to build super immunity and wipe out cancer, defeat diabetes, and destroy heart disease, get it out of the United States, take us from the sickest country on earth to the healthiest country on earth, and let's set an example for all the other people of the world. Hi folks, we're talking about G-BOMBs today. That's an acronym for greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. It was created by Dr. Joel Furman, a family practitioner who ate healthy his whole life and dedicates his life to the interpretation of nutritional science as that information from different studies of individuals across our planet becomes available. The China study, different European studies, American scientists checking the benefits of nutritional value of foods comparative to the reduction of cancer rates, heart disease rates, and diabetic rates, and high blood pressure, things along those lines. How healthy, nutritious foods make those diseases non-existent, and how the typical American, standard American diet, or SAD, has traveled around the planet and escalated the rates of cancer and heart disease and diabetes everywhere it's traveled. We need to reverse these rates, and G-BOMBs is a way to do it. Believe me, I've been doing it myself for almost 18 months. I feel awesome. I never run out of energy. I live my life now to get the message to anyone who will listen. This does work. Please jump on this bandwagon. You will never regret doing what I've done. Anyway, the second B in G-BOMBs is berries. These are the berries that Vaz often consumes. Most of the time I just use the frozen blueberries and frozen strawberries. Why frozen? I get the most bang for my buck with these. I get almost twice as many berries as when I buy them fresh, even when they're in season. And in addition to that, they don't go bad as quickly. These stay in my freezer, and they're frozen, so I can instantly use these to make a milkshake type of drink. I can use it to make a sorbet or ice cream like dish. Or I can just throw them in my oatmeal, and once I put those in the microwave, they thaw out in 2 minutes. So that's how I use it. This week they had 2 for $5 on blackberries, and I do like blackberries myself. They're kind of seedy. Some people might not like them, but I like to put them on top of my oatmeal. The thing about berries that's good for us and why they're included in G-BOMBs is they're very low in calories, and they're also an inhibitor of the production of blood vessels. So they stop the feeding of abnormal cells, like other things on the G-BOMBs list. And just to show you how low calories they are, the big box store sells me these great value whole blueberries for $8. I get 3 pounds of them, and 1 cup, which I get 10 cups out of this bag. So if I ate this whole entire 10-cup bag, it would only be 800 calories. So along those lines, 1 cup is only 80 calories. Only 1 gram of fat is contained in that. At the same time, it has 17 total carbohydrates, but 4 grams of that is dietary fiber. And I get a bunch of nutritional value from the blueberries. I see here on the nutrition facts, they give me different things. I get vitamin K from blueberries. I get 30% of my daily intake from 1 cup. I get 6% of my vitamin C, 2% of thiamine, 4% of niacin, folic acid 2%, manganese 10%, copper 2%, B6 4%, riboflavin 4%. That's a lot of nutritional bang from my buck coming from berries. Over here with the strawberries, I get 13 cups of berries for $9 I paid for this bag. Only 50 calories in a cup of strawberries. Again, an awesome source of fiber. I've talked about the Harvard 10-to-1 rule in the past, where at least 10% of your total carbohydrates you want to come from dietary fiber. Well, almost 30% in strawberries and about the same in the blueberries comes from dietary fiber. Difference in the vitamin content with the strawberries compared to the blueberries, I get 100% of my vitamin C in the 1 cup serving. I get 6% of iron, I get 2% thiamine, niacin 4%, magnesium 4%, 20% manganese, copper 4%, folic acid 6%, riboflavin 4%, vitamin K 4%, and I even get 2% of my daily intake of calcium from eating strawberries. All that for 50 calories. That's why berries are important. Blueberries and strawberries have been shown to have the most cancer-fighting abilities, but that's because of all these antioxidants that are contained in them. G-BOMBS is the acronym for greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. Well, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion, the most important seed is flax. And let's use FLAX, which spells flax, as an acronym for why flax is good. I'm going to read right from the bag. Let's use F is for fiber. It's amazing how much fiber a little flaxseed contains. Just 2 tablespoons of flax meal delivers 4 grams of fiber, as much fiber as 1.5 cups of cooked oatmeal. Studies suggest that when flaxseed meal is added to the diet, harmful LDL cholesterol drops, while good HDL cholesterol stays put. Regularity improves also. The L in flax. L is for lignans. Here's where the flaxseed story gets major points. Flaxseed contains high levels of natural antioxidants called lignans. The lignans in flaxseed can bind with circulating substances that might promote unchecked cell growth, aka cancer, fat cells, other abnormal cells in the body. Many plant foods have some lignans, but flaxseed has at least 70 times more than any other, 75 times. To get the lignans that are in just 2 tablespoons of flaxseed meal, you would need to eat 30 cups of fresh broccoli. Over here you see Vaz's tomato plant that I grew from a seed. It's about 6 feet tall so far, growing in the house all winter. FLA. A is for alpha-linolenic acid. A modern diet, even healthy ones, are often deficient in omega-3. Flaxseed is a mega source of the plant version of omega-3 called alpha-linoleic acid. The oil in flaxseed is about 50% alpha-linoleic acid. Canola and walnut oils, the next highest sources, have about 10%. But most foods have far less. 1 serving of flaxseed meal, which is 2 tablespoons, contains 2,400 milligrams of omega-3. Awesome source of omega-3. X is for excellence, an excellent choice. Should you consider adding flax meal to your diet? Absolutely, say many doctors and nutritionists, and Vaz.